I'm going to show you the best website builder platform for digital designers like UX, UI, and product designers who need an online portfolio. Trying to find the right platform can take a lot of time, but I'll help you do this in just a few minutes. Plus, I'll explain the important things to look out for. If you don't choose the right platform from the start, it can cost you money having to upgrade to a higher plan because you maybe didn't consider how many gigabytes of storage you need or what bandwidth you might need. And it can cost you time because it takes days or weeks to build a portfolio. And over time, having to build it all over again in a new platform is a nightmare. You also need to consider whether the platform has the right features, as in, for example, can you do subtle animation with this platform? You also need to consider things like how easy is it to learn and use and keep your folio maintained and up to date over time. Ideally, it would be really quick to add new projects whilst you're maybe working full time. It's really easy to get caught up in all the hype, maybe looking at YouTube videos and one-click features and all the exciting templates. But these are the things that really matter. So I'm going to talk about the top three platforms, and those are Framer, Wix Studio, and Webflow. So what I've done here is I've listed out all of the main platforms that you could use, and these have been discarded already. So you've got Dribbble, Behance, and Coroflot. They're social platforms, a bit like Facebook, so it's not a standalone portfolio and it's not professional enough. Then you've got paid niche UX folios like Portfolio Box, UXFol.io, Adobe Portfolio, Carbon and Fabric. There are others, of course. They tend to be not very advanced and a little bit inflexible, so those have been discarded as well. In this blue area, we've got, alongside Wix, which I will be considering today, and Webflow, we've got Squarespace, WordPress, and Bubble. So the only ones to consider from that are actually Wix Studio, which is the new version of Wix, or an upgraded version of Wix, and Webflow, and also Framer, which is reasonably new. And then there are other things that you could do. You can create a Google Docs PDF. You can do Firebase if you're good at coding. Most people don't want to get involved in coding. And it's obviously important, very important to decide what are you familiar with and what are you prepared to take on. Most people want code free. And then you've also got Figma prototypes. You can actually have a portfolio just by using Figma prototypes. Okay, so let's go over and have a look at Framer, Webflow, and Wix Studio. So the most important things to consider are really things like the media storage and also the bandwidth per month. So just to explain, media storage means all of this is pretty much where you're going to store all of your photographs and images and all of the assets for the website. So as you can see, Framer, it isn't great there, but that's still probably enough to do most portfolios. I'll explain this a bit further in a minute. And the other thing is bandwidth per month. So to explain bandwidth, that is if you've got, for example, a lot of people going to your website. Let's say, for example, you're a business and a big business driving a lot of traffic to your website with ads, then bandwidth becomes very important. If you're actually just sending out your CV and your portfolio link to apply for jobs, then bandwidth isn't quite so important for you. And the other thing that I want to explain that's important to understand is the number of CMS collections and the number of CMS items. So to explain this really simply, a CMS item is one item in a database. So for example, if you've got a collection of projects in your portfolio, each one of those projects could be a CMS item. And if you're going to have a collection of projects, you might also want to categorize them. So you'd use one index for the projects and another CMS collection or index for example, the categories. You might want to have UI design, UX design, apps, websites, things like that as your categories. You can make up your own categories, but you would use up one index for categories and one index for projects. I could show you, maybe I won't go into too much detail here. Another thing that's really important, of course, is price. So Framer comes out as the most expensive. Depending on whether you do annual or monthly billing, it's 30 or 40 US dollars a month. And in euros, it's the same, 30 or 40 a month. When it comes to Webflow CMS, it's 23 a month annually billed, or 29 a month if you pay by the month. That means that you could turn your website off as well. And then you've got Wix Studio, which kind of sits in the middle at 27 US dollars a month or 23 euros a month. So essentially, the worst there is Framer at the most expensive. Also notice that media storage, it's not that generous, but it may be enough for you. Just to explain, I have a travel blog with the free version of Wix. It's not Wix Studio, and this is limited to 500 megabytes of storage. And after I'd written about 20 travel articles with several images and things in it like this, I ran out of space. So if you also, the other thing is that if you want to have a kind of a blog or to have articles on your portfolio, a lot of people do want to do this, then you'll also be using up another 1 or 2 CMS indexes there, and each article would use up a CMS item. This is just max file upload size. That's not too bad for any of them, and usually that's fine, because you can also host files externally. Just remember that you can, if you host files on YouTube, they're not private and you can't make them private. You can only make them unlisted. So that means that if you wanted to go with something completely private like Vimeo, there could be an extra cost for that sort of thing, to host your files externally and just link them into your portfolio. Here we've got maximum number of pages. With Webflow, it's 100, but that's really quite generous. It would be quite hard to get to above 100. Can they do interactive animations? So this is something like if you want to do things like this, for example, so that as the page scrolls down, things are moving. So these are what you might call animate on scroll. If you want to do anything like that, then you want to be using one of these 3 top platforms. So with Learning Curve, Webflow and Framer are really similar. I think Framer is supposed to be a bit easier to learn, and Wix Studio is supposed to be the easiest. They've all got free and paid templates. You can buy your domain with them, but that doesn't really make a difference as to why you would choose them or not, because you could just buy an external domain and link it in. They all include a security certificate, SSL, so that's not going to factor into your decision really. You can also turn the site on and off month by month with all of these platforms, if you're paying on a monthly plan, that is. If you're paying annually, then you can't. And they've all got free trials. So really, when it comes down to it, the decision really comes down to the fact that Framer is quite a bit more expensive, and it also isn't very generous with its storage. I'll give you an example as well with bandwidth. So one of my clients was recently sending a lot of advertising traffic to their website, and they have started to just about reach 50 gigabytes of bandwidth per month. With Webflow, you can easily see how much you've used per month. I checked my portfolio website, which is not just a portfolio, it's also my tutoring website. So I've got lots and lots of pages there for my students as well. And I checked all my media files, total 356 megabytes at the moment. So that's literally only about 3.5% of the 10 gigabyte allowance with Framer. And with Webflow, there isn't a limit, apparently. So let's say, for example, with a portfolio, you probably have up to 50 projects. normally you wouldn't have more than 50 projects because projects get old and you want to just showcase your best projects. So really 50 is extremely generous. You may only have realistically 3 projects when you're starting out and maybe 10 to 20 projects as a really senior designer. So say for example you've got up to 50 projects maximum with categories. That would be 2 CMS collections and maybe 100 items, absolutely maximum. That would be really generous. If you want to blog as well, that's 1 to 2 more CMS collections and as many articles as you want. So each article would be 1 CMS item. So really, when it comes down to it, this is the reason why I use Webflow. I use it because it's a lot more affordable. And it's got very generous media storage, so I know that I'm not going to run out and have to upgrade to the next plan. So I'm on the basic Webflow CMS at 23 a month paid annually, which is fine. I think that's okay to keep your portfolio switched on all the time. Yeah, so if you may be a photographer or a videographer, or you want to put lots of video content on your website, you might find that you hit some limits with Framer and have to go up to the next plan. With Webflow, I've been talking about the CMS plan at 23 a month. Now, if you go over your bandwidth, which is really unlikely unless you somehow get really viral or something, you might end up going up to the 39 a month, and this goes up to 100 gigabytes of bandwidth a month. I wouldn't expect that to happen with a portfolio website though. And then here we've got the Wix Studio plans. So you would be looking for a portfolio really at the standard plan with 50 gigabyte media storage. You could of course start out with the basic plan. You don't really need collaborators usually for a portfolio site because you're just using it yourself. And here you've got 4,000 CMS items. So yeah, when it really comes down to it, Webflow is the winner really on price and features in terms of being able to achieve any kind of design that you want, and also not being limited with media storage and bandwidth. So yeah, basically they're the really important things to know about when you are choosing a portfolio website. So Webflow is the winner. Check out the website. You find out that there are lots and lots of exciting things to explore, and the resources are particularly awesome. Definitely look at the templates and the Webflow University. That is fantastic training. Check out the description below my video for an affiliate link to get started with a free Webflow account, and that won't cost you any more than usual. And start for free, try out Webflow, check out Webflow University, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to hear more.